Hello, and thank you for joining us today for the Wednesday webinar, courtesy of the Instructional Technology Resource Center. Today's webinar is What is a Course Alignment Map? My name is Mark Cooper, and joining me today are Lisa Kidder, Ryan Randall, and Kim Tompkinson. The overview for today's session is we're going to talk about the purpose of a course alignment map, and why the concept of alignment matters in your course design, what a course alignment map looks like, and then we'll talk about how to use it. Starting with the purpose of a course alignment map, it's a logical process in developing your course, much like building a house. Start with a blueprint, which is your alignment map, and you're all architects of your own courses. And then you would start to construct the framework for your course. This is the course design. And then once you have the design in place, then you would start to build the house by adding walls and rooms and doors and windows. And this is the course development. Now, many instructors often dive straight into the course development without prior planning. However, this is akin to constructing a house without a blueprint, and the structural soundness of that house would be questionable if we didn't do any planning beforehand. The alignment map clarifies that the module level and course level objectives are consistent. This helps with the alignment. Mapping the curriculum, so a visual representation of all the course elements, the assessments, the learning activities, the instructional materials, and the technology, and how they relate to each other. The alignment map also ensures alignment, showing how each of those course elements support the overall learning objectives. And also it provides an accurate assessment. It helps you design your assessments that accurately measure the achievement of the stated learning objectives. Finally, it's a continuous improvement tool. We'll talk a little bit about this later, but this supports the overall evaluation and revision process of your course. You want to think of the alignment map as a living, breathing document for your ongoing improvement efforts. Up next, Kim is going to discuss why alignment matters.
Thanks, Mark. Before we get into deeply about alignment maps themselves, we probably should talk about alignment. And we're going to talk a little bit for a second about why alignment does matter. Idaho State University subscribes to the Quality Matters rubric, and the QM rubric is a national benchmark for online course design. Within that rubric, alignment is defined as the critical course elements working together to ensure that students achieve the desired learning outcomes. So when you're inside of your course, you develop your outcomes or your objectives, and those are what forms the backbone of the course. This is central to everything. As we look at alignment, we make deliberate connections between materials, activities, and assessments, and the outcomes that are specifically designed to help learners achieve. Finally, when reviewing alignment or lack of alignment within your course, it can help you identify areas for future improvement, but most importantly, it makes it transparent about how you have put things together into your course and how those things tie back to your course objectives and how everything aligns together. Next, Lisa is going to explain to us what a course alignment map is.
Thank you, Kim. Looking at alignment, we have the 6 critical course components that contribute to alignment. An alignment map has to include these 6 items. Course level objectives or outcomes, we use those terms interchangeably. Module level outcomes, a module is a small segment of your course. Assessments, instructional materials, learning activities, and technology. A course alignment map just needs to have those items. These 6 items align with the QM's rubric, and they are the alignment standards. So they connect with a specific review standard. That's what S stands for. So course level objectives are addressed by specific review standard 2.1, and we go through the alignment standards down to technology that is addressed in specific review standard 6.1. We've worked through creating a template to help you with this process. A course alignment map can take on any form. You can use any type of tool, from a diagram to a flow chart, to a spreadsheet, to a Word document. We provide our template as a Google Doc so that you can look at it and then make a copy for yourself in Google. You can download that into Word if that would be more helpful for you. So this is the first page of the ISU template for a course alignment map. It starts with right there in the center having your course objectives, which is the first alignment standard, specific review standard 2.1. In addition, it asks you and has a place for some key components that you need to consider as you're working on developing your course or analyzing it. We recommend putting the title up at the top with a link directly to your course so you can easily switch back and forth. You can put a link to your alignment map within your course and hide it from your students or make it visible to them if you want. We recommend you add a course description. This is just the description from the course catalog to help you know what it says in the catalog. If your course is part of a specialized accreditation or contributes to the ISU general education standards, or for any other reason that you have some specific guidelines for your course level objectives, we recommend making those notes here on that first page and putting links as appropriate. On a module page, we have this look. And there's a lot of things here. Each one of them has proven to be helpful in looking at the alignment in your course. They can be completed in any order, but once they're in, then you get this overall view. So let's look at this. Up here at the top, we have our module level objectives. You'll notice that right next to it, we recommend putting in parentheses the number of your course level objectives. This helps you make sure that every single module level objective leads up to your course objectives. And then we have assessments. This gives both formative and summative assessments, learning activities. In the course alignment map, we actually recommend you list all the learning activities from reading a book to watching a video, submitting an assignment, all the things that they do, and then it makes a nice quick to-do list that you can copy and paste into your course. The next alignment standard that is over here is the instructional materials. And then we have technology. We have 2 columns for technology. And this is a question that comes up quite often on why we have 2 columns. And a lot of this comes from as you're working and building on course, you make notes of technology, but there's 2 types of technology. The ones that you use, your choices that you make in the learning management system, and then things your students might need. So really, this course technology is what the QM rubric 6.1 is looking at. What tools have you selected to use in the course to deliver the education experience for your students? The learner technology are any unique tools that your students might need. Maybe you're having them create videos. Maybe you want them to participate in something in a third-party tool and then come back. Maybe they need a specialized software. If you're teaching a course on a specialized software, they will need that, and to point that out. That is actually one of the non-alignment standards, specific review standard 1.5. And if you've noticed, we have a second non-alignment standard, which is right here in types of interaction. We have found this helpful as you're evaluating your course. When you find out that things aren't going so well, or maybe it's not aligned, or it is aligned, but it needs something, always look at engagement. And this specific review standard, 5.2, is looking at the active learning and the types of interaction in your course. We have some little acronyms here. SC stands for student content interaction, anything with a textbook, a lecture video. Student instructor interaction is when you provide feedback and engage with them. Student-student interaction is when the students interact with and engage with each other through group work, discussions, collaborations. In addition to the alignment standards that are represented on this module page, we have these 2 non-alignment standards that we have found helpful as we look at creating and revising that blueprint. In addition, this page also has guidance to divide your course into a logical sequence. You can call them modules, weeks, units, lessons, topics, whatever you want. We do recommend putting the topic in there, and we will use the module as a generic section of your course. There are prompts under each of the column headers that will help you remind you what it is that needs to go there. And you'll also see that there are reminders to add indicators, usually parentheses, with the course module outcomes, or in here in the assessments, we recommend adding an F for formative assessment and S for summative assessment. So what does this look like? Here's a completed example. You can see that we have our module and our course level objectives. Their numbers are just here, but they're on the first page. And you can see that everything is listed and each one applies to each of these specific review standards from the QM rubric. This may look a little bit overwhelming. Remember, you do it a piece at a time. Brian's going to go a little bit more in depth on exactly how to approach getting all of the pieces in here.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. When you're looking at the pieces of your course, you can think of them simultaneously as puzzle pieces, which go in a single orientation, is how usually you put together a puzzle piece. You might also think of them a little closer to building blocks or Legos, which can go in multiple places. They're more modular. And also think back to Mark's initial image of a blueprint for a house where you know you need certain things in your house, but you're not quite sure where you might want them to be. As you're refining your course alignment map, you get to choose the arrangement and then modify where the pieces go. When you're making a course alignment map, there's basically two different types that you can do. There's one for a new course or one for an existing course. So we're going to start first with how you might approach mapping out a new course prep. So what I would recommend that you do is start with anything that you have, any givens that you've either come up with yourself or have been provided to you. So these would be things like whatever materials you've chosen to use. So the textbook, any articles that are really hallmark for your discipline or things that you know students will learn from well. If you're going to be including any sort of open educational resources that might not be as big as a textbook, things from the library that you know you want to use, such as the LibGuides, research guides that they have, anything that you know you want to include. Start with those, then also think about your assessments. Think about how the materials and the assessments align to your course outcomes. So these assessments, the ones that you might start with, having them in mind, might be a signature assignment, something that you know is well designed to go for a general education outcome, anything like that. Then start to think about the gaps and the fit of these different things. As you start filling it out, you might start thinking about how many formative assessments you have. Think about what types of learner interaction you have. If you realize you mostly have student to content and very little student to student, you might think about adding more so that you can better engage all of the different learner preferences or learner styles or learner motivations to help make sure that everybody in your course feels engaged. Then also you can experiment with the arrangement. Think about, well, perhaps this particular article would go really well with this particular type of outcome. Perhaps it would go with this general education assessment. You can sort of experiment with that if you've got a new course that you're still preparing. Then if you're doing an existing course, it's a little bit different. It's similar, but here instead of sort of trying to build it out, more of a blueprint, here instead you're doing more of an inventory. What already exists? Start from documenting all of that. Document what you already have, then also consider your student feedback, such as people saying that a certain thing isn't working or a certain thing is confusing. That's great student feedback for you to consider. If you've just sort of intuited that there are stumbling blocks along the way where one assignment people don't do as well on as the rest, and it's a little confusing as to why they don't, that might be an indirect bit of student feedback that you can consider. And then start to puzzle over your potential changes. Think about things like what gaps exist. Again, if you have many summative assessments and very few formative ones, perhaps think about how you could unbundle that big summative one into smaller formative ones. That might help students stay engaged and perform better. Think about how you might be able to reinforce your students' growing skills or how they're coming into the ways of knowing that you're trying to communicate through your course. And definitely make sure, even if you're considering student feedback, which might be sometimes discouraging or sometimes just confusing, if one student really likes something and another student doesn't seem to, make sure to keep the things that you love. Doing so is going to make sure that you stay engaged, make sure that therefore your students will understand why you have such thrill for your material and for the ways of knowing that you are offering to them through your course. So don't jettison things that you love. Make sure that you stay present that way for your students and for yourself. So one thing we haven't discussed much is that if we think back to the sort of blueprint model, not only do people plan the things before they build them, but then I believe builders keep some sort of log, a sort of like, this is what we've done today. Let's extend that metaphor a little bit more into something like a research notebook or a captain's log. And what we do at the ITRC when we teach things is we keep a living document in another Google document. And what we do there is we keep things like the feedback that we have for each other, things that faculty have said to us seem to work really well and that clarify things, or things that we could still improve the ways that we're describing things so that it would be a smoother experience. So those sort of hiccups, as well as more congratulatory feedback. And then also we jot down our own sense of the course, like, oh, this is weird. People who usually get an idea quickly didn't perceive this one so readily. Maybe we want to refine something. It's a very handy place to keep drafts of all of the announcements, plus a schedule of when you plan to send them out to make sure that you're sending them out in a timely manner, and then not having to redraft each semester what you want to convey. And you can also consult this when you actually get around to modifying your course. So if you keep this sort of ongoing, in the moment journal of what you're experiencing as you teach, it's very handy to then later go back and not have to sort of delve into your memory and hope you remember all of the hiccups or all of the high water marks where everything seemed to be going well. Instead, document all of that, so then it'll make it easier for you when you decide to modify things. And again, this approach will help support your continuous improvement of the course. So here's an example. In one of the courses we teach, as just a comment that I put in the side of the Google document, we thought about reformatting the instructions into separate sections, since a few students seemed a bit confused about what was truly necessary, and we thought we could clarify things. So that's just one small example of something that we found handy in a document of this sort. We just sort of have it arranged by our modules and then by the days that we plan to have the interactions when it's asynchronous. You could do it differently if it's a synchronous course. Then we said, here's one of the announcements that we've drafted. This is when we tend to send it out. And then sometimes we'll also have sections in the document that might say, we've noticed this. We think next time we'll move it somewhere else. Just whatever you think will work for you and your sort of continuous improvement of the course. We highly recommend that you consider augmenting the map with something more like a log.
If you would like to learn more or explore other exciting subjects aligned with the work that we do in the ITRC, we provide a variety of work resources. And the first is our Tiger Tracks articles. And these are from the knowledge base, a library of how-tos at your fingertips. You can also access our Wednesday webinar video. So after we record our Wednesday webinars, we edit them and place them into our video library on YouTube, and you can access the ITRC video library. On the ITRC website, you can access accessibility resources. If you'd like to meet with somebody in the ITRC, you can do so simply by emailing the ITRC at isu.edu. You can give us a call, 208-282-5880, or you can simply come down and visit us in person in the ISU library. We're in the basement, room B17. If you would like to make an on-demand appointment with one of our full-time ITRC staff, you could do so by clicking the link, and you can meet with us by Zoom, by phone, or in person. And if you hover over the QR code on the side there, you can access links to these items. Future Wednesday webinars, you can find those by staying in tune with the Idaho State Today or checking the ISU events calendar. You can also access our complete schedule on the ITRC website. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you have a great day.